Hi, I'm Lisa Curcio, and I would love to welcome you here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. Today we are going to create an easy accordion flip card. Now that sounds like a lot, and this card has a lot. Best of all, this fun fold is very simple, and you're going to love creating it at home. Now, as always, I'm going to have a link down in the video description below when tonight's premiere is all over. That link is going to navigate you to the pictures, cutting dimensions, and supplies that are inside our project sheet. Not only are you going to get all that information for the card that I'm going to demonstrate, but you're also going to get it for two other samples I'm going to share with you as well. Now, we love to interact with you, so whether you are here watching the premiere with me live or perhaps you are watching the replay, I would love to read your comments. In order to do so, YouTube does require that you log in using your Gmail address to either chat with us live or, of course, leave a comment here on the replay. And if you're here with us in the live chat right now, I want to make sure you know that I'm here along with Gina Curcio Hawley. You might recognize that surname. Gina is my daughter. She's the sales and marketing director here at Lisa's Stamp Studio and an avid stamper. So we're here to interact with you and to answer your questions. So we hope that you'll chime in. Now, if you're like me, you know how much brand new ideas excite you if you're a card maker. And I've got a great way to connect you with ideas you have never seen before. Let me introduce you to Stamp Studio memberships. Every Monday, right to your inbox for $5 for the whole month, you'll get a brand new tutorial that includes pictures, cutting dimensions, supplies, and step-by-step instructions to recreate a brand new project. Now, I designed these specifically for the membership. They are not shared anywhere else. And if you happen to be a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you love new ideas to share with your own customers, great news. The photos and the tutorials are not watermarked. You're welcome to share them. And for those of you that like a little bit more, level 2 might be for you. It includes everything in level 1 plus a monthly fun fold card. You're going to be able to find all the information for my memberships over on my website at lisastampstudio.com. Click on memberships. All right, we're ready. Let's get started. We're going to start by creating some score lines. I'm using fresh Freesia cardstock for this card. Now, let me give you a great tip. When you pick out your designer series paper, do that first. That will help determine the card base color for you. We're going to start by doing some scoring. The paper trimmer includes both the scoring and the cutting blade, and they stay on the clear track at the exact same time. They navigate up and down out of the way. Absolutely love that clear guide as well. There is a ledge here at the top and one at the bottom to keep your cardstock nice and straight. This measures 5.5 by 11. The first score line is going to be at 3 1/2 inches. And you're going to see I'm very careful to make sure this is nice and straight here across the top. Once I have it lined up where I want it, we're going to go ahead and use that light blade, and we are going to score. We're going to scoot over now to 5 1/8 of an inch, again, making sure that paper is nice and straight across the top, and we're going to score again. The next measurement is at 6 3/4 of an inch, and you can see here we got it ended, right? And that's where that extendable arm comes into play. We're going to scoot this over to 6 3/4 of an inch, which is here. And then once again, all the way on the right side of your screen, you'll see me scoring. So now we have 3 score lines. I know it might be a little difficult for you to see on camera, but I want to make sure that you understand at home when you're making this, that the right side quadrant from the score line here to the edge is going to be wider than this one, and that is intentional. The center score line, the one that's in the middle, I want you to make what's called a mountain fold, which means it's going to come to a peak. And I want you to line up those edges here, and with your bone folder, go over that to give that a nice crisp crease. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take that next score line here on the left, and you're going to fold that in, and we're going to go over do the same thing. We're going to look to make sure those edges are nice and aligned, and then just reinforce them. Now you can see so far we have this. Now this one is also going to be what we call a valley fold. It's going to go down inside like the front. So we've kind of got what looks like a W or an M, depending on how you're looking at it. I'm going to crease it, and then I'm going to open this up so it's nice and flat. And we're going to check here, and then we are going to reinforce that score line. So now we have this. The best part about this card is that the center panel is going to create a flip or a pop-up, if you would, for the inside, which is going to be lots of fun to create. Let's start with the front layer. I'm going to be working on a piece of basic white cardstock. Now, all the cutting measurements for you for this card, as well as the other samples, are going to be in that free project sheet. It's linked down in the video description below for you. I am going to protect my work surface because we're going to do a little bit of blending with the blending brushes. I wanted a sky background. Now, there's lots of ways you can achieve this, but let me show you my favorite. And that's using the basic borders dies. This is one of my favorites. I love that there's different texture borders here, and they all have a very trendy stitched outline to them as well. I created a stencil using the die. Now, obviously, I've used this one many, many times, but let me show you what I did. You're going to want to make sure you give yourself ample length because you can save this and use this repeatedly. All I did was position this on top of the cardstock, and I ran it through my die cutting machine, and I retained this as the template. I'm going to be using Pool Party ink for this, and of course you can coordinate your colors to your designer series paper. I just like these lighter blues for the sky. I don't like to take my blending brush and dip it right inside the ink pad. I find that sucks up way more ink than I need. There's too much of a high concentration of color in a place that I can't really use it well. What I like to do is I like to take a clear block, and I'm going to lightly tap that now on top of the ink pad, which is going to give me a palette. I'm going to take my blending brush and I'm going to swirl it on top of the clear block. Now, if you are concerned that it's going to be too dark, I want you to give it a little swirl on your scratch paper first so that you can control the coverage. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this stencil and I'm going to lay this right on top of my cardstock how I want it. Remember, angles are going to be very, very important. Here's another great tip for you, because if you're like me and you're tired of chasing the paper, take your adhesive and put a very tiny amount of adhesive on the back. I like to take it either to my jeans or use my hands to kind of muddy up and dirty up that adhesive so that the tackiness is not too strong. I love the grid papers. I've just taken the larger ones and cut them down to smaller sizes, and we're going to tack that down. So now we've got a great palette. I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to maneuver this where I want it. With my brush loaded, I'm going to work half on the template and half off. That's going to give you a better concentration of color. I'm holding the blending brush straight up and down, and I'm going to work some color here near the top because obviously we want to make sure that our sky is filled. Make small circular motions. That's going to allow you to control the color coverage. Oftentimes when the stencil or the template, like I have positioned here, is in place, you really cannot appreciate the depth of the color until you move it. So I'm just going to go back and forth just for this one and just keep a simple border. Now watch what happens when I lift it. Look how predominant that is. I'm going to reposition this pattern because I don't want the same pattern to be repetitive. So I'm going to slide this over this time, and I'm going to kind of go on a little bit of an angle. I'm going to use whatever color is left on this brush because you can see from above that it was quite dark. I'm not afraid to overlap a little bit of the white that's above me because I don't want it to be too white. I want it to look a little bit more realistic. You can make this as dark or as light as you want, and no two cards are ever going to be the same. I'm going to take this now, and again, I'm going to reposition it. And again, you can tip it if you choose. Holding that in place, I'm going to use that residual ink, and then I'm going to swirl. The more you use the blending brush, the lighter the color concentration is going to be on the bristles. But remember, you can always reload it. If you feel it's too light before you start with the stencil, make sure you load it, because when you let go of the stencil, you're going to have to ensure perfect positioning. And you can obviously tape this down with some washi tape or low tack tape, or my favorite, that post-it labeling and cover up tape. This tape is just my rock star thing here in my studio. It's not a Stampin' Up! Product, but I have it linked for you on my website under Shop My Favorite Things, and then there under Craft Room Favorites. It is repositional. You can use it numerous times. It's great for holding your dies in place too as well. Great for tacking down your stencils or templates. I'm going to pick this up one more time. Got a really nice pattern there, and I'm going to switch and pivot this one more time, and we're going to do the same thing. I have not reloaded my brush. Have you noticed that? So our highest concentration of ink there is at the very, very top. Again, half on the stencil, half off, small circular motions. Now you might be wondering, why am I holding the head of the brush with my two fingers? And that's because I have really bad basal joint arthritis. And to hold it this way with a grip is really painful for me. So I find by holding the head, it's better. Let's do this one more time. So we're going to reposition this, and I think I'm going to make this one straight, and we're going to fill in the bottom, do the exact same thing that we've already done. You can see here at the bottom, it's quite white. And if you don't like that, brace your paper or adhere it down and take your blending brush and use that residual ink. And again, a little on and off the cardstock. So you've got a little bit of white to those clouds. And I'm just going to give some color here to the bottom so it looks purposeful. Now, when you're all done, what I want you to do is lightly twist the cardstock to release it. Don't try to pull it. You don't want to rip it. This small amount of adhesive that's on here, it's not a problem. You can certainly leave it there. Now let's talk about this. If you have leftover ink on your block, just give it a good wipe on your grid paper, and then you're going to clean this just like you do your stamps. That template now is going to go right back inside my little die envelope, so it's ready to use any other time I want to create a cloud. I don't have to recreate that template over and over again. Now those gorgeous clouds need some images, and let's go ahead and get our stamps out. And I'm going to bring in some scrap basic white cardstock. I'm going to be using the Hot Air Balloon Bundle. This is the stamp set plus the coordinating dies. Now you're going to notice that there's some solid dies here which work famously with the stamp set. And quite frankly, I absolutely love these because you can use a banner and of course clouds for lots of other things. I even like these solid pieces here and here to hold greetings. I'm going to be starting with the large balloon. I did do 2 of them. I'm only going to do 1 with you in the video because it's repetitive. I think you'll get it. But because of that arthritis, I don't always get a really good image out of my stamp. You might also be wondering, why does that look pink? And that's because I used it in pink. Photopolymer will have a tendency to hold the pigmentation of a darker color. Just make sure you clean it and dry it and you are good to go. It just stains the stamp. It doesn't hurt it. And since I am concerned about getting a really nice impression, I'm going to bring in my mini Misty. I'm going to go ahead and put my cardstock down inside, and I'm going to work inside the corner for perfect positioning because I have a really funny feeling with these poor hands, I'm not going to get a nice crisp image the first time. I'm going to go ahead and lay my image face down on that cardstock. Again, checking to make sure it's in the corner. There's a very, very strong magnet included. I love this product. It has saved me so much wasted cardstock you can't imagine. You'll find this linked for you as well under Shop, My Favorite Things, and then just scroll on that first page. When you close the clear lid, it's going to pick up the photopolymer stamp. And photopolymer tends to be sticky. So if it lifts your paper, make sure that it's realigned in your corner, and then you're good to go. Whatever color you're going to choose is now when we're going to add the ink because the stamp is now face up. I'm grabbing my fresh freesia, and of course this is the beauty of Stampin' Up! Products because the ink, the alcohol markers, the designer paper, the accessories are all color coordinated. So there is absolutely no guesswork. I'm going to go ahead and open up that ink pad. Holding it by the sides, I am going to tap to apply coverage. I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to close it and I'm going to press. And I just use my fingertips. You don't have to manhandle this. And that's the beauty of the Misty. You are assured now that you're going to get perfect positioning every time. Remember that it lifts. So if you're not sure it's properly positioned, just tuck it back in that corner. I used to do this without the Misty, and I would go through numerous pieces of paper to get this right. And now I don't have to worry. Back over the top one more time because I could tell that image wasn't nice, bold, and solid. And we are going to press, and now we're going to lift. Now that looks way better. I'm using a microfiber cloth. I have these linked for you too under Shop, My Favorite Things, Craft Room Favorites. These come in a nice little package. You get several. So one of them is wet and I keep one dry. They're machine washable. I love them, but that cleans off your stamp. Now I'm going to remove this because we're going to change images. There's an image now that fits inside of here. There's lots of options with the stamp sets. You could create all kinds of fun, different combinations. I'm going to take this image face down once again, and you're going to see that it fits right inside of here. Now, if you're like me, you're going to want to get right over it to get it aligned as good as possible. There is a margin of error, so there can be a little bit of white space at the top and bottom once it's stamped. Again, we're going to pick that up. We're going to make sure we're in that corner. That's going to make our life nice and easy. And now I am switching over to the Azure Afternoon. This is one of the colors in my designer paper. So I don't have to guess on what colors I'm going to put together. The designer paper is going to do all the work for you. And I'm going to press that image right inside that area. This is where the Misty is also a champ to help you align your images. Do you see that small white area here and a little tiny sliver here? That's give and take for the stamp. Now, if for some reason that is not a high enough concentration of ink for you, you can do exactly what we've done again and ink it and then stamp it. There's one more thing my image needs, and it needs the basket to hold it. And for this, I'm going to use Pecan Pie ink pad. Now, this is a darker ink, but I love the shade, and I thought it was going to look really, really realistic here. And I'm going to bring in my scratch paper to show you how one ink pad can provide several tones of color. Do you see how it's dark, the original color, and it becomes lighter? This is what we call stamping off. So I want my basket to be more of this shade. So I'm going to ink it up, I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp the other remaining ink right here on the cardstock. That didn't come out very good, did it? I was pressing too hard. I got that Hercules hold on it. And then I'm going to stamp again. There we go. That's much better. Now all we have to do is die cut the pieces. Remember, we talked about the dies slipping and moving, and obviously they want to be perfectly positioned. And this is where I'm going to be able to show you this amazing Post-it labeling tape in action. It dispenses perfectly. You can rip off the size that you want. Once you have it aligned exactly where you want it, tape it over the die onto the cardstock. And I'm going to do this in several areas because I don't want it to move. This is fantastic for these smaller pieces. Now you can see how tiny that is. So right over everything, and that's going to hold it, is pick it up and put it right through your die cutting machine. We've just die cut the pieces, and obviously we need to attach these. Now I like to work on my silicone craft sheet because adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it, which means it's going to keep my work surface sticky free. I love to use my take your pick tool whenever I have these little small pieces because it's easier to pick them up. There's a putty tip on one end, interchangeable pieces that come with it here. This is a paper piercing tool attachment. It comes with a dual-ended stylus tool, and I love this spatula. You can tell by looking at it how dirty it is. It allows me to get up underneath those mistakes and release my cardstock carefully. There is not much room here to attach this. You're probably thinking, egads, how are we going to get glue on there? Well, let me introduce you to this. This is the Precision Glue Press by My Sweet Petunia. It is the same company that makes the Misty, and I happen to be an affiliate for them. I love this product, and I'm going to tell you, everybody who's bought one has raved about it and thanked me, and here is why. It is small. You can see by holding it in the palm of my hand, and my hands are small, that it's not large at all. It comes with 2 bottles. The tips are slightly different, but you can see they're really, really narrow. So the glue is going to come out in a precision form. You can put any glue in the bottle. One comes filled. The other one I actually filled with multi-purpose liquid glue sold in my online store. I love that glue because it's fast drying and it's very, very strong. Now, when you store the little bottle, it has a needle tip, and that's going to go right on top of here and screw on when you're not using it. It's going to be placed here when it's not in use, and guess what? This is going to hold your glue down towards the tip, ready to use every single time. But here's the best part. This never clogs. I'm not kidding you. Now, when I got it, I was really concerned that I wouldn't be able to squeeze it because of the arthritis here. But I found that it's a little tiny trigger. Once you got it in your hand for the first time, give it a little tiny squeeze and get that glue going. But I want to show you. Watch my fingers. Look how tiny I'm squeezing, and look how little those dots can come out. I'm going to put a little smidgen here and a little smidgen here because there's no reason for us to go crazy because, like I said, this is the multi-purpose liquid glue and it's very, very strong. I'm going to take this now and I'm going to attach the basket to the balloon and I'm going to press in place. Like I said, fast drying and it's very strong. Now, before you joined me, I made one other balloon in a different size using a different combination of images in the stamp set. But there was one other thing I wanted to do to this balloon to spruce it up. Let me show you what that is. Remember I showed you the die for the little banners? And I was like, oh, this is a great time to add some fun color. So let's go ahead and let's slide this over. And I'm going to bring back in that small grid paper. This is where your alcohol-based markers are going to be lots of fun. Now, because I don't want this to be lost with the same color concept, I'm going to be pulling in from the Designer Series paper I'm going to be using, and I'll show that to you in a minute. So the very first one I'm going to be using is called Lemon Lolly. It's a very light yellow, and just like all of the Stampin' Blends alcohol-based markers, you get both the light and the dark shade, which makes you look like a great professional. They are dual-ended. They're designated here by the lines. I am going to take this and I am going to color in one of the banners. Now I'm going to use a couple other colors, so I'm going to skip a couple banners and come over here. I'm trying to keep that white border across the top. Now that's the darker one, and it can be used independently, or you can layer them, which will be better displayed with the next color. Now I have bubble bath. Again, light and dark. I'm going to start with the light color. I'm going to color in one of the banners here. I'm going to skip. I come over here now and do the exact same thing. So we have some continuity. The alcohol from the marker needs to evaporate or dry before you try to lay another color or shade over the top. And yes, you can mix and match to come up with custom colors. When it's evaporated, which only takes seconds, you can then come in with the darker color and you can go around the edges or across the top, whatever you want. Again, that's going to need a few seconds to evaporate, and when it does, the magic comes by pulling the light and the dark together. Now the last one I used was Pool Party. Now I do have that already finished for you, and I'm going to show you that here. You might be looking at this thinking, wow, those are two different sizes, and you're absolutely right. The banner is made this long on purpose so it'll fit any of the balloons inside the stamp set. So let me give you a little tip so that you custom shape this to the balloon size that you want to use it on. I want my banners on the small balloon, and this is the one we didn't finish, but just to give you an idea. Then what I did is I took this die and I put it where I would want it on the balloon, and I used that tape again, and I ran it through the die cutting machine, and look what happened. It made it the perfect width for the area that you want to place it. It's a great tip and a great way to use your dies in multiple ways. Now, once again, you might be thinking, how are we going to get glue on there? Well, back to that precision glue press once again. So again, I'm just going to slightly pull that trigger, and you can see you only need a tiny little push there. There we go, a little sticky. I'm going to use my take your pick tool to help me with that, and I'm going to position this so that my ends are going to fit. This is only going to take a few seconds for this to dry, and now we've got a little added color to this balloon. Back here to our card. Again, the shortest part is on the front. I am going to flip that over, and for this, I'm going to use my Stampin' CO+. This is a very, very strong adhesive, and because it's a fun fold, and I know it's going to be really interesting for the receiver to open and close, I'm going to be a bit more generous with my adhesive than I normally am. Coming around that outside border, I am now going to open this up to make it easy for me. I love a contrasting color underneath my cardstock when I'm doing this, because it allows me to make sure that I can get even borders all the way around. Now we can easily add these to the front of the card. We are going to flip those upside down. We're going to grab our Stampin' Dimensionals. These are pre-cut pieces of foam tape. So I'm going to make sure that they're well balanced on top of here. I'm going to work over here as well and do the exact same thing. Now at the basket area, that dimensional is a little bit too big. So I'm going to come in with my mini dimensionals. Again, they're pre-cut and ready to use, and I'm going to place one of those down in the basket area. I'm going to use that paper piercing tool attachment on this tool to remove those paper backings, because that's going to keep my arthritic fingers from pinching. It also helps keep them wrangled. Knowing this is the front of the card, now you're just going to position them where you want them. And I want some elevation, so I thought the bigger balloon would be in the foreground and the smaller balloon in the back. Once you're happy, go ahead and tack those in place. Now let's talk about the mechanics of the card. This is the inside. This is where I opted for Designer Series paper. Now this Designer Series paper is called Lighter Than Air. It coordinates with this whole suite of products with the hot air balloons. You're going to see a little bit more of it in a minute. It's beautiful, and I love that you can use it for lots of other themes. I'm coming back here to the silicone craft sheet, and we are now going to add our adhesive along the outside edges once again. This piece is now going to go here. And I'm going to give you one more tip about adhering these. Do you have a hard time getting them even? Do this. Turn the paper horizontally. Just be cognizant of the direction of your pattern. I find that this is easier because you have a better perspective all the way around horizontally than you do vertically. I know it kind of sounds silly, but give it a try, and I bet you're going to agree with me. Now over here, I opted for the same papers, but the Stampin' Up! Papers in the package are color coordinated, which means they're going to mix beautifully together. But let's go ahead and add our adhesive to this one piece, and let's get ready to adhere this now to the other side. This is going to be the inside of the card. Now you might also be thinking, well, how in the world are you going to sign this? Well, I've got a great idea for you. Again, trying to keep that equal margin all the way around. We've already talked about this absolutely gorgeous designer series paper. Here's 2 more pieces from it. Again, double-sided. There are some with hot air balloons that you're going to see in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive, and these are going to go to both of these panels because this panel right here is going to play an important role in the accordion flip to this card. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, and I'm going to add my adhesive to the back side. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, I am thrilled that you're here. Thank you for coming by. You can click the subscribe button if you'd like to join us on a regular basis, and then make sure you click the bell icon and the word all. YouTube then will send you notifications when I'm here. Again, looking to kind of just line things up the best I can, and we're going to press. All right, here comes the fun part. We've got the front finished. We've got the fun fold. Now we've got to create the mechanism. I did do the stamping for these ahead of time. So I've got 2 basic white panels here. Hang in there, and just a note to lift you up. You might notice that these words are stamped all the way to the left. That's going to be important in just a minute if you want to add this extra feature. I have 2 pieces of the same color cardstock that we've used for the card base. And what we're going to do is we're going to add adhesive to the back of these, and we are going to layer these. Now this is going to do 2 things. It's going to create great color coordination, but it also has a very important role. It's going to reinforce this greeting because we need this to have some stability, which will make some sense in just a minute. Coming back here to the inside of the card, determine which one you want to be at the top. You are going to adhere this piece so it aligns to the top of this piece, not going over the crease that's on the right-hand side, but you only need adhesive here because you don't want it to stick to the other side of that accordion. So I'm going to flip this upside down, and I'm going to add 2, maybe 3 rows of adhesive because I know how wide this is. I'm going to come back to here. I am looking for the edge to make sure it does not come past the score line. I'm also looking here at the top to make sure that it's as even as I possibly can get it. Once I'm happy with it, we're going to go ahead and press that in place. Now we also have this one, remember? This one's going to be in the opposite direction at the bottom. So once again, we're going to flip that over. We're going to add our adhesive strips to the back side. We want the bottom edge to match up with this. And again, you want to make sure it doesn't go past that crease line, otherwise the card will not fold. This area I left blank on purpose. Another hot air balloon, but this time quite different because this is designer series paper. This package of designer series papers has images already ready for you. Just use the dies. And then there's also a die of a solid basket. I'm going to put it here. Now there's a couple things you need to remember. You don't want to impede on the fold because remember, this is going to close. You also don't want to impede on the greeting, and you've got to be cognizant of where the adhesive is going to go. Now I know my Stampin' Seal Plus is very, very strong, so I don't have to add it everywhere. And with the card flat, I'm going to hold this hot air balloon to make sure that it's positioned where I want it. And then I'm going to tack that in place to make sure that it's nice and straight, and it is, and I'll give that a good press. Remember, we need a place to sign the card. I have this all sized up for you inside your project sheet. Same banner, but this time I used the designer series paper to create those gorgeous colors. Glued it on with the precision glue press. Positioning for this is going to be important because you don't want to see it from the front of the card. So my best advice to you is I want you to put your fingers on the back and I want you to hover it. You should be leaving about a ½ an inch between the edge of the white and the edge of the designer series paper because remember, when this is closed, you don't want to see it. It's kind of like a surprise. Now this paper is really, really forgiving because of the lines, right? But just make sure you use that little tip. And now when we close the card, you should see nothing but that pretty paper coming through. Let's add the embellishment, and I'm going to show you how this fun fold operates and the other samples. These are the rainbow adhesive backed dots. And I was forever trying to remember all the colors, so I just wrote them on the inside flap. Another great tip for you. And again, with the color coordination, I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to pick up one of those. I'm going to put one of those bubble bath ones. That was one of the colors we used inside of here. We're going to use one of those lemon lolly ones here. And you know what? Let's just go for fun, and let's add another color up here. So we've got 3 different colors of embellishments, which is really unusual and not something we typically do, but it works for this card. Here's how the fun fold works. When they open it, do you see how those 2 panels are going to flip-flop? And it creates that accordion type gesture. The great thing is it stands up for perfect display, gives you plenty of room to stamp a sentiment or write a personal message and sign it. You need more space? Add another panel here, or of course you can add another panel to the back side. Lots of fun things you can do with this. I mean, ideas are endless. Let me show you some more. For this next card, I'm using the Kitten Around bundle. So it's the stamps and the coordinating dies. And just like I showed you with the hot air balloons, this one has additional die pieces that work as accessories to these images. And designer series paper you can die cut. So there's lots of fun things you can do with this one. And here is the card that I made. So I stuck for a pretty simple color palette, and I guess I'm really hyped up on Azure right now because it's the same color as inside my balloon. But I used the dies to make a castle, and I absolutely love this. I have a grandson, and he's got my heart. Here comes that flip accordion once again, and I turned this one into a birthday card. And yes, those dies are part of that die set I just showed you. All I did was use them on some holographic paper. Isn't that pretty? Lots of room to sign as well. Now here comes the last one. One more for the kids, because I don't know about you. I'm a season in life where I need lots and lots of birthday cards, especially for the kids. Now keep in mind, if you've got someone in the family who's in the construction business or loves to be a fixer-upper like my Bob the Builder, this is a fantastic stamp set. It's called Construction Zone. I paired this one with the Rock and Roll Designer Series paper. It's black and white paper, but I added the color using a sponge dauber. That's going to give you a higher concentration of ink versus the blending brush we used here for the clouds. Very simple images. My little guy's on a forklift with his balloons. I'm going to open it up, and again, you have that flip with that accordion feature here at the top. Loads of fun, birthday zone. Yeah, all those images are in that same stamp set. And look how I created the caution cones with the little barrier here. Lots and lots of fun for this one. As always, I'd love to know your favorite. Pop down right now in the comments and let me know, because your feedback is really important to me. I tried to provide samples that are going to appeal to an array of people. Remember, you can find all the sales and promotions over on my website under the Shop tab. And if you're not aware, we are in the final days of Stampin' Up's celebration. This is their annual sale that is the largest that you're going to see. For every $50 increment in product that you purchase, you're going to be able to choose something for free from the exclusive sale products. And not only that, it might be a great time for you to join the Stampin' Up demonstrator family. We love hobby paper crafters, and we love those who are even interested in building a business. You can find the information over on my website under Join. When you're over on my website, do me a favor, scroll all the way to the bottom and fill out that form, because I would love to add you to my free weekly e-newsletter. That includes another project every week. It also is going to keep you in the know of what's happening here at the studio, as well as sales and promotions, because if you're like me, we want to know about it first. We would love to have you check out the vast PDF tutorial library under the Shop button as well. We thank you for being here with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.